Anyone can do research. One suspect, 12 dead, 70 others injured. However, no amount of research can explain the personal and emotional impact of the 2012 movie theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado. Through multiple perspectives regarding community violence, a personal interview, survivor's guilt, Aurora after the massacre, gun laws, and the effect of media in tragic situations, an additional aspect of the Aurora movie theater shooting can be explored. In an article regarding community violence and its effect on children published by the Child Study Center, community violence is defined as exposure, as a witness or through experience, to acts of interpersonal violence perpetrated by individuals who are not intimately related to the victim. Based on this definition, the Aurora shooting can be classified as community violence. Community violence has been associated with chronic stress and worry and may have enduring consequences on children's development, resulting in a view that the world is hostile and dangerous, and can also result in violence within their own lives. The Aurora shooting shocked the entire nation, forcing us to question even attending a movie theater. This violence causes us to reconsider everyday actions that shouldn't have to be thought about twice, wondering if our family will be safe while at the grocery store, or even if it's a good idea to go out at all, are all thoughts that people experience during the days after the Aurora shooting. Psychological symptoms also related to the post-traumatic stress disorder developed, such as flashbacks of the trauma. Victims and those within the community have oftentimes have difficulty concentrating on the here and now, because their emotional energy is devoted to avoiding the past and fighting the negative memories. Now let me recount a first-hand experience with community violence. Silas Babylonia was a classmate from my friend's high school who worked at the Century 16 Theater in Aurora, Colorado, and he was working at the movie theater the night of the shooting. Over my 4th of July vacation, I had the opportunity to interview him and ask him about his personal experience with the Aurora shooting. Babylonia was found on a video of the shooting holding the door open for people who were frantically trying to leave the theater. When asked why he was so calm and helpful, Babylonia replied, "In a time of struggle and fear, all we can do is be there for each other." The strong help hold up the weak. Through tragic events like these, the community is devastated, but it is also strengthened. While Babylonia's statement implies that there must be strong, caring people within the community, he also details how emotional an experience such as the Aurora shooting can be. No one knew what to do at the theater. No one knew what to do when they went home, and no one knew what to do weeks later. You never expect to be in a situation like that, where your life is in danger simply by going to work at a movie theater. Babylonia explained that he and other coworkers constantly debated whether or not they could have done something to change what had happened that night. What Babylonia and his coworkers felt is very common and referred to as survivor's guilt, which I will now go into more greater detail about. In Surviving with the Guilt of Living by Elizabeth Landau, she explores survivor's guilt and how it affects people. It is very common to feel guilty for living through a traumatic event in which others have died and can be an immediate response to tragedy. In the Aurora shooting, 12 innocent people were killed. While most victims were in their 20s, a young 8-year-old girl was also killed. Survivor's guilt is oftentimes an expression of grief and loss, the feeling that someone else got hurt because of me. Many who have experienced the shooting firsthand questioned why they weren't killed or why they couldn't have died instead of such a young child. Others feel bad because they switched seats with a friend last minute and their friend got hurt, but they didn't. Symptoms of survivor's guilt include intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, and nightmares, as well as depression and suicidal feelings as more severe symptoms. People need to know that survivor's guilt is very common, but there is nothing that you could have done. And you must move on with your life, said Russell Jones, a psychologist at Virginia Tech. The emotional impact of survivor's guilt can cause one to feel as if it were their fault someone else close to them died, and in all reality there is nothing they could have done to prevent it. Just as Russell Jones said, survivor's guilt is very common and can be very influential on those affected. So what does Aurora look like now afterwards? The Gathering, Aurora After the Massacre by Amanda Fortini and Walter Curran explores the emotional impact of the shooting, that the shooting maintains on the community. A movie theater is traditionally thought of as a family environment where you can relax. You never imagine that something so tragic can happen. Authors argue that eventually no one is going to want to do anything at all. The safety of yourself and the loved ones constantly comes into question once one experiences such an event as the Aurora shooting. Fortini and Curran suggest that everything becomes a problem, particularly everything that wasn't a problem before the shooting. Turn people's attention inward and in situations and settings that didn't used to warrant attention at all. Possibly the most important question asked regarding the emotional standpoint is whether or not the public will gradually cease to be the public. Even though individual people and families were impacted, the community will also be altered in a way that will never be the same. No one knows what the healing is yet or how they'll recognize it when it has happened. One question that was raised by those affected, as well as fellow Americans, is the controversial question over gun control. So next we will discuss both sides over gun control. In an article published by usnews.com, Does the Colorado shooting prove the need for more gun control laws? The author questions the necessity for more gun control laws within the United States. This argument is based on facts extracted from the Aurora movie theater shooting. James Holm, the man who is convicted of taking 12 innocent lives and injuring more than 70 people, had over 6,000 rounds of ammunition, multiple firearms, and explosive booby traps within his apartment. Gun control laws would not be ineffective towards homemade explosives, such as the ones made and implemented by Holmes. In the situation regarding the Aurora shooting, Holmes considered the booby trap within his constructed the booby trap within his apartment in hopes that a neighbor would set the bombs off, limiting the amount of police and other responders on the scene of the shooting at the theater. James Holmes purchased the guns as well as the ammunition legally in some state that the tragedy is proof that the United States needs tougher gun laws and bans on assault weapons. Stricter gun laws would increase the need for more guns and ammunition on the black market. However, others argue that tougher gun laws infringe upon their Second Amendment rights. And some argue that if others had been carrying firearms of their own, they could have defended themselves against Holmes. There is substantial evidence showing that gun control laws both fail to control guns, but are also counterproductive. More control over guns does not create more control over situations such as the Aurora shooting. All these opinions of gun control were instantly discussed once the tragedy at Aurora occurred. Why then were discussions escalated? The answer lies in the involvement of the media. Thomas Sowell, author of The Colorado Shooting and the Media, published by the National Review, argues that too many people in the media cannot seem to tell the difference between reporting the news and creating propaganda. It appears as if recently media has become an outlet to desensitize violence, causing those around the violence to experience a numb feeling. Society has become so over-mediated that it no longer troubles us to see a dead human on TV or hear of 12 innocent people being killed in a movie theater. Unveiling the news in real time, as many Colorado and nationwide news stations did, provides a different understanding of what is going on. This synopsis of tragic events instantly plays out for the global public. Raw, first-person accounts of tragedies such as the Aurora shooting produce a more public and immediate outlet of grieving, especially regarding such public and tragic events. There are people around you to help cope with the loss of family members or friends, or even reach out and support others within your community. The media desensitize the emotional impact of such a tragic event on the community. In conclusion, the Aurora shooting without a doubt affected the nation as a whole. However, it is important to recognize that an emotional impact also exists within the community and those affected by the shooting. This is oftentimes overlooked, which often resonates in a widespread case of survivor's guilt, a sometimes crippling effect on those directly affected by the tragedy. The unfortunate event in Aurora sparked discussion about gun control. Would the shooting have happened if James Holt hadn't been able to attain a gun? Would the shooting had ever happened if an audience member who, exercising their right to bear arms, had pulled their gun on James Holmes? The multiple scenarios are endless, and we will unfortunately never know a correct answer. Mass media circulation escalated both discussion over gun laws as well as the tragedy of the event. Some argued the consistent and up-to-date reporting relayed the importance of the issue and allowed others to reach out to those in need, while others argue that the in-your-face coverage desensitized bystanders. Regardless of differing opinions, the Aurora shooting was a tragedy felt by the United States.